For most of my life, I feel that people have hated me, and they don't even know me. You see, I believe our genetics affect our morality. So ever since we were born, because of society as well, our morality is shaped by how we look, and that affects how we treat other people. I've experienced this directly all my life. I don't consider myself the most handsome at all. In fact, before I lost 30 pounds recently, I always thought I was on the ugly side. I was very insecure, I was very depressed for a lot of years, and I was always treated accordingly by the opposite sex. I have a video showcasing how I looked before, and it was not pretty. But what I've noticed is that despite my pain with that, I never really became a bad person. And I strongly believe that a lot of people do because of those reasons, just based on genetics and how society treats people who look less favorable. It really is a totally different experience. You feel like you have to earn every single ounce of love. People make you feel like you have to earn it, and that usually translates into them using you, just so you feel appreciated and seen. I strongly believe that the reason I never really became that type of person was because of my upbringing. I was raised in churches, believing in Christianity. Now, I was raised in that environment, but even as a kid, I never really believed. However, the beauty of it is that even though I didn't really believe, I was heavily influenced by the positive side of the Bible. As we know, there's a lot of people who have a lot of problems with the Bible. But the reality is that if you truly want to look at the Bible, there are a lot of things that are beautiful messages. One of the verses that always stuck with me throughout my life, even though I didn't believe, was the verse, "He who has no sin, cast the first stone." Meaning that none of us are perfect judges of ourselves, much less each other. So the ego loves to play the role of the judge, and that's why we often treat each other so bad, unless we get something in return. And when it comes to looks and morality, I feel that a lot of people see the world through their own pain, and a silent competition from that. Those who are not born with favorable looks often want to discredit those who are born with favorable looks, because to them, there's pride in succeeding in this life without an advantage, which is understandable. Problem is when it becomes so personal and so subconscious that even before meeting a person, you're already treating them bad. For example, I found that when I looked my best, a lot of guys who I guess didn't feel as attractive treated me with that competitive behavior, such as dissing me, trying to discredit me, toxic masculinity. They would almost try to interrogate me, to try to find whatever they could to discredit me and criticize me. And I'm not their enemy. It's just that I'm something that reminds them of something that hurts them. So they want to take it out on me. It becomes a very obvious ego competition instead of a loving environment. And many times you can feel it in the air. You don't even need words. But ironically, they didn't even notice. It was largely subconscious. Because if they did notice, why do it at all? They would realize it's a waste of time. So I tend to notice that guys who don't feel as attractive, who don't even know my past, tend to be bitter, discrediting, and cold towards me. And by society's standards of toxic beauty, which promotes beautiful people being deserving of more love and praise, and just kindness in general, I can totally understand their perspective and their pain, because I've been there. But it's still not justified, and it's still something that the ego has to heal, to be able to love better. I may look like now that I get a lot of attention, but I don't. I've been alone for basically all of my life, and my relationships and friendships have always felt one-sided. I've already talked about that in some videos. I believe there's a huge misconception about what a person's life looks like based on how they look. We can easily jump into conclusions based on resentment of what we wish we had, of how much easier they must have it. And yeah, there are clear benefits. I'm not gonna dispute that. In fact, I lost 30 pounds and people treat me much better now. Who would have guessed? But there's new challenges, like what I'm talking about, because there's always gonna be some negative with people. So while there are obvious benefits, I also feel this can make us really cold towards others. And as a collective, it becomes even worse because we all start to do it. When I was at my lowest, I was very bitter against God, with thoughts like, He's unfair because I don't look a certain way. Why do they get to have that? Why do I don't? And while for a non-believer that can feel justified, what I found eventually is that it's largely redundant. Because us complaining and being bitter about it will not make the world a better place, and it won't even help our own lives. It can just make it worse, in fact. So instead, I've largely invested in my mind and skills. Things like video editing, things like writing, things like singing. Because for most of my life, I felt that I wasn't worthy because I wasn't better at anything than anybody. So I had to stand out in some way. Skills, right? They are often the only thing we can truly control besides genetics. But what I found out that really changed my outlook on all of this is when you see genetics from the point of view of purpose. Let me show you what I mean. Found out was that every one of us can have a specific purpose that is incredibly tailored to our specific life, and that includes how we look and the pain that built us. After all, do we all focus on the beauty of great minds like Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, or Nikola Tesla? No, we just think about what they accomplished. And what if I told you that through the butterfly effect, they became who they are because of lack of beauty as well? Who's to say that if they were born with a model body or a beautiful singing voice, that they never would have accomplished what they did? Because their specific path would have changed due to their line of thought based on their experiences. And so if we see it in a deeper way, in the grand scheme of things, you could be born in a specific way to give birth to a future genius. But why would you even think that? The ego doesn't concern itself with what it could accomplish in unconventional ways. It wants immediate, obvious validation and a peace of mind from that. It doesn't want challenges. The ego doesn't want to look in the mirror and be reminded of what it isn't. And yet, what it isn't can fuel what it could be. And what it could be can be something entirely unique. When it comes to morality, I find that based on how people look, it can greatly alter their morality urgency, how they treat others, their ego levels, and their bitterness. Beautiful people can often get trapped in a reality where resources and opportunities come easy. So they take more stuff for granted. And from a moral and spiritual perspective, they may have beauty, but their soul may be in greater danger because they could be their own worst obstacle in making the world a better place. And in the spiritual, that is much more important than how we look, especially in the context of God. It's something that we should all strive for to make the world a better place. If you see it from that perspective, you could argue that beauty can be a curse. And yet, it just feels unfair because humans give so much power to that. And we protest against injustice, except when it's about us having responsibility. I always say it's easy to call for justice on others and for ourselves, complaining about how unfair our lives are, and yet none of us would trade our lives with a person who has it worse. Isn't that injustice as well? Justice isn't a personal luxury to call upon. It's a personal responsibility as well. And that's what collective love is about. Every day lived in this society can feel exhausting because people are trapped in the programming of their specific life circumstances, which has a specific ego filter that affects their perception, that often views you as insignificant beyond their personal convenience. And yet, while we can complain about it, someone is also thinking that about us. Perhaps a person that is homeless that you never even notice in your daily life. Just sees you as another cold-hearted person who doesn't deserve what he has. But what do we deserve? That's the question. Technically, nobody deserves more than anyone from a genetic perspective. If the world was designed with total justice in mind, we would all be copies of each other, neither beautiful or bad looking, just the same. And our personalities and our efforts would be what set us apart. And yet it's not that way. And while I personally believe in God, I can't totally say that it's a better reality. But what I can say is that it definitely opens the door to more possibilities. And you could argue the greatest inventions and stories, and even the greatest love, have been born through pain. Nobody deserves better looks, a better life, and to be born to rich parents instead of poverty. And yet with the greatest minds, as an example, it doesn't dictate our capacity for greatness. And one could argue that is actually the precise blueprint for that greatness. A purpose that is unique to our particular human design, unfair as it may seem. We all can agree that we love those people that made the greatest inventions that we benefit from today. The luxury we can take for granted was once but a dream. And the last thing we think about when we appreciate these things, these inventions, is how the inventor looked. And yet, how they looked could have been the exact blueprint to the outcome that we all benefit from today.